phone on.
Hi, everyone. This is Scarlett Johnson and Moms for Liberty Unplugged. I'm here with my friend, Marsha, who is a leader in Illinois. And there's a lot of things happening in Illinois. And just yesterday, I posted a clip of you speaking at a school board meeting. And before we start talking, I'm going to play that clip. Okay.
Good evening. I'm Marsha McClary. I'm a chapter leader of Moms for Liberty here in Lake County, Illinois. I'm here to address the safety and fairness issues with the D128 policies. I believe that after talking to hundreds of staff and educators across the state of Illinois, that most of you want to do the right thing and you are up against some very difficult state policies. So I do appreciate that situation. But I will say that California and a lot of districts are ruling and changing their policies to address the fairness and safety of your students. And I encourage you to do the same thing. D128's gender support plan and guidelines remain in violation of federal law, whereas federal law supersedes state law on the supremacy clause. So talk to your lawyers about that, including Title IX violations allowing biological males and female bathrooms and locker rooms and sports, expressly including gender identity and curriculum, and inconsistent, at best, parental notification and opt-out processes I've been made aware of by several members in your district, and permitting D128 to hide a student's transition from parents, which is really not partnering with the parents on education, as I believe most of you would like to do, and I think it makes sense. These policies resulted in an alleged 18-year-old man disrobing and watching girls change as a result of the policies, and at any time and any moment, this could happen in your schools, and it is a big liability to you, so please consider that. Some of the excerpts from your gender plans and support plans are as follows. Gender support plan includes a plan for supporting students' access to facilities and school-sponsored programs consistent with the identity of the student. This may include, not limited to, gender restrooms, locker rooms, fine and performing arts programs, and athletic performance programs. Schools must allow students to use gendered facilities and have access that are consistent with their gender support plans. Gender and gender expansive students have the right to be addressed by name and pronoun corresponding to identity they exclusively and consistently assert at the school. There is nothing in these policies that say that the parents need to be notified or consulted on this specifically. That is very, very concerning to me as a parental rights advocate, and I believe that most of your parents would be very alarmed at this type of situation. The issue with sports has even reached the U.S. Olympic Committee, who recently codified competition to be based on biological sex for fairness and safety reasons. Don't D128 athletes and those competitive schools deserve the same fairness as elite athletes of the Olympics? I believe so. What about the other schools you're competing with and those athletes that show up here and aren't happy that your policy allows males to compete against females and vice versa? This isn't about exclusion. It's about fairness, safety, and respect. Kern County Board of Education, I'd ask you to reference, in California just made the right choice for their students, as you should bravely as well. If these policies are not remedied, I encourage parents of these conditions to procure legal remedies. Thank you so much, and please do the right thing for your students.
Great job there. So we're going to dive right in because I want to get as much information as possible about what's happening in Illinois. There are so many stories. Just last week, I posted a school board meeting in which you were in attendance regarding a 6'4" male who made the girls' volleyball team, beating out 45 girls, according to an article I read, for a spot on that team. This boy had never played volleyball before, but he beat out girls who played club volleyball. And if you're a parent, you know the work that's involved in club sports. It's a lot of time, effort, dedication, money. And so this boy who'd never played volleyball before beats out the girls. Probably the fact being 6'4" is a reason why. And this boy was showering, changing with the girls in girls' private spaces, all of those things. And so parents had come out to talk about how upset they were. A coach quit, a lot of things. So it's been pretty busy in Illinois. And also, your state is the first to do something, which I will let you talk about.
Yeah, so it has been busy. It's back to school, and parents are rightly so pretty upset about these situations. The interesting thing a lot of people don't realize is that some of these policies have been in place for almost a decade. So the school from last Wednesday was Conan High School in Schaumburg, Illinois, part of District 211. And the existing case law in Illinois has a case where a student sued to have access to the girls' bathroom. And it was about 10 years ago. Don't quote me on the exact year, but and that is something that needs to be overturned. And so we're trying to, if the schools don't change the policy, we're trying to get people to take and litigate it if their daughters have been affected by this.
Yeah, I had done some research on that case, and I didn't. I wasn't aware of it. I think the suit was brought forth as early as 2017, maybe, and had been in the process of litigation till 2019, until that student and she was represented. I'm not sure what was it a boy pretending to be a girl or a girl pretending to be a boy? I don't.
It was a boy who thought he was a girl.
Yes. So a boy that said he was a girl that wanted to go and use the girls' spaces, despite the fact that there were separate facilities set up for this boy, said, "I'm a girl." I watched the news report of this. I bring it up right now, but I have it. The news report of this, where the reporter is told by the ACLU, "Oh, look at her. So obviously a girl." And I'm looking and I'm thinking, no, not even close. Like, that is not true. But that's what we're told to say and think. It's
right.
Crazy.
Right. And so this has created an undertone of many issues in our area. I will tell you, mid to downstate Illinois is not following along with this. They're not doing this. But up by Chicago, they are kind of battling with the federal, executive orders and Title IX versus this state situation. And they're in opposition to each other when it comes to, really the whole gender transition plans, all of the, the bathroom and the sports. It's all of this in one bunch of problems in the Chicago area.
And let's bring up, because I have the gender support plan, and this plan is for Community High School District 128, and this is the district that you were speaking at yesterday, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And what are some of the things that you found in this gender support plan?
Yeah, so this one is pretty egregious. It has, in the confidentiality area, it doesn't talk about, checking with the parents explicitly. It says it can be the student or the parent or the parents who ask for this. Nowhere does it say, that, and nowhere does it say there needs to be some type of medical evaluation or anything like that. This one is pretty difficult. It's more similar to the ones we're seeing out of Chicago public schools, for example, which is equally challenging.
So not only does it, I think I found an area where it explicitly said that a student doesn't need to have a medical evaluation. That is not required.
Right. They don't need one. Right.
So it's not a mystery. They have said they don't need any proof There's no documentation required. They simply just need to say that they feel like they trapped in the wrong body. They say a transgender or gender expansive student has all of these rights, including the language that I saw made it clear that they discounted parents. That basically parents do not have a say, and they are not entitled to know their child's quote gender identity, and that if the student doesn't want it revealed to the parents, they're not going to do it. I mean, I think that was pretty clear from the language of this policy.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the guidance from the Illinois State Board of Education is similar. And that is where this policy basis comes from. Now, again, a lot of districts, especially mid to downstate Illinois, where it's more conservative, are not following this. But the ones up here, we're seeing, once if these are FOIA'd or, people get a hold of these, you're seeing this language that is consistent with the ISB guidelines on this area. It's really a big problem.
There's a section, nouns and pronouns, that a transgender and gender expansive student has the right to be addressed by the name and pronoun that corresponds to their gender identity and that they consistently assert. What about a staff member whose deeply held religious beliefs would forbid them from using those names and pronouns? And recent court cases have been ruled in favor of staff members that they have a First Amendment right to hold on to their deeply held religious belief and not to kind of cave into this. That's not addressed in this. And you pointed out in your speech that there's specific language that a transgender student, quote unquote, can choose whatever bathroom, locker room they want to use, and they can be a part of the athletic team that they identify with. There's no requirement for medical proof. They don't have to submit any sort of testosterone levels, anything like that. And that's in direct violation of federal law, Title IX, executive orders. This whole document is in complete rebellion of federal law.
Yes, it is.
And
exactly. Yes. And the Chicago public schools, the belly of the beast on all this is very similar to this policy. And I would guess there's some other schools that have similar policies. We just have to get a hold of the documents themselves, because you also find that a lot of these are not publicly posted. Interestingly enough, you have to FOIA or kind of, find a special link, or somebody has to send it to you. These are often not publicly available documents.
So this gender support plan, is this something that had to be FOIA'd?
I will have to ask. So this was sent to me from parents in the district. I will find out how they got it.
Yes, the gender support plans that I have seen, I have had to obtain either by a FOIA request or someone else did that, or a teacher or administrator sent us the documents or told us where to find them. A lot of times you'll see these support plans in the professional development that is provided to teachers, and then it's forwarded to us. But rarely do I see a gender support plan posted even to board docs. So maybe sometimes it could be a request from the school board if it's part of school board policy, if it's a policy passed by the school board. They have to show it to you if requested, and ask for it. Go down to your district office and say, I would like to review it. If they are taking too long to send it to you, know what's going on, know the policies.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really important. And I agree with you. I mean, if you have a staff member that, from a religious sense, biblically changing your sex is not biblical. So, those folks are kind of in a rock and a hard place with policies like this. when they're asked to do this.
Yeah, even so I'll show in Wisconsin. So Wisconsin Gender Expansive Resources. And in those resources, there's similar guides about gender affirming care, resources, curriculum to provide to even toddlers. So they'll talk about there's separate web pages in the DPI, the Department of Instruction, that point to Amaze videos and all sorts of easy guides. And they link up to a lot of radical organizations that promote all of this. They promote gender ideology, and they will often write these gender support plans. So a gender support plan like this one, I wouldn't be surprised at all if a lot of the language is pulled right from the Human Rights Campaign. They have model policies in the same way that our conservative groups, Moms for Liberty, the organizations that we work with, will develop model policies. These organizations develop model policies, and sometimes the language is taken just verbatim from these radical activist and political groups.
Yeah, it's true. I do see this language similar to the ISB guidance, but the ISB guidance probably came from one of those groups itself. Yeah, most likely.
And so what is happening now at the school board meeting? Well, actually, what is the situation that occurred? Because there was a speaker before you, a mother, who detailed why she was there and why you came to this meeting. What happened?
Yeah, so the speaker who is the first speaker, Marnie Navarro, she has a large group in Libertyville, and I live about half an hour away. It's a big county here, a lot of districts. So, but I've known her for a little while. So she was in tune with last year, last school year anyway, this incident with the male coming into the locker room, and them trying to work with the school board, as most of us do, try to work very, so somewhat quietly to try to get these things changed and in a low drama way. And that has not happened. They have not changed the policies. Nothing has happened since this blow up incident last year. So she decided she was going to go in at the first meeting of the year, talk again. And I said, okay, I'll come with you. And I'm sure there's some people that want to come. So there was actually another, I'd say 15 to 17 people in the audience supporting also her as well. But I did want to support her and get this going because it's so egregious. I mean, and any time this could happen again. Today it could happen.
Yes.
Because the policies are wide open.
Yes. And so in Libertyville High School, it was a 18-year-old male that and presented as a male. Everyone knew as a male until recently.
Actually, no. So interestingly enough is, so I've talked to several parents. So this person was not consistently identifying as a male. Okay. It was sort of a mixed thing, apparently, and chose one, kind of sometimes had the boy name and sometimes the female name. So that was interesting. It was a senior in high school, a student at the time, but it was 18, an adult. And so it's ridiculous, really. And
so it was someone, so from her speech, I got from middle school identified as a male, but in high school had inconsistently identified female, male. But as a senior for this incident was in the girls' locker room, allegedly leering at girls as they changed, minor girls who were under 18, watching them undress, making them feel uncomfortable. And a lot of these parents were very upset and they reported this incident.
Correct.
I know from my experience with a similar event in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, that happened in 2022, I believe, and it's still being litigated. Okay, there were 4 girls that were freshmen at the time, 14 years old, and same situation, an 18-year-old male that identified as a female, but I think inconsistently as well, exposed himself, dropped his clothes, and showered naked next to them. They were horrified. And the parents were never contacted, the parents of the girls. They only found out about it a month later. So there was no Title IX investigation, which there should have been in this situation, as this individual exposed himself, made them feel uncomfortable, and was acting in a way that was you have to consider harassment. And I would imagine, I don't know for sure, but in this situation in Illinois, the same thing, that when this happened, there should have been a Title IX investigation. And I would bet that there wasn't, because that male identified as transgender.
Yeah, I mean, that's my thought too. And even then, at that time, if you recall, the Title IX regulations were potentially going to change.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of the schools were already, I don't know what the timing was of that, but now we're kind of back to reality here. So on the Title IX front anyway.
That's a good point, because this incident happened last year. Last year, obviously, there was a different president, Biden, and by the end of the school year in April and May, the final push, the final attempt was made to change the definition of sex under Title IX to include gender identity, turning a paragraph written in 1972 that would provide protections and opportunities for girls into a 1,500-page document of rights, and was very much a political document. So the school board at that time, you could say, well, they weren't sure what was going to happen. There were lawsuits. Moms for Liberty was a plaintiff in one of those lawsuits. We had 4 members, and we were successful in providing an injunctive relief. So they could say, well, we don't know. But now there's the new president, President Trump, and they know. Now, made very clear numerous times, numerous executive orders, numerous policy changes. And how many times this summer did the Department of Justice or the Office of Civil Rights issue a press release, or the Department of Education issue a press release stating, we're going after this district, we're going after these 4 districts. Most recently, we're going after the 5 districts in Northern Virginia that are similarly in rebellion against the federal government on this issue. So they can't claim we don't know. Now they know. And that's what you were there to say.
Yeah.
Now you know. I'm bringing the receipts. You know what you have to do. Why aren't you doing it?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's definitely in Illinois a state versus federal showdown happening in front of our eyes.
Yes.
And, a lot of parents thought, when this new administration came in, that this would all be fixed, overnight. And it's not. There's a lot of resistance in the state. So this is going to be a showdown. That's what's happening. And
the state has, like you said, the state has laws. You have more than just board policies, right? There are state laws. There are bills that have passed, right?
Yeah. So we have the one that really backs this up is the Illinois Human Rights Act. It's not super detailed, but it is the backbone. And I should have had it ready for this, but it talks about gender identity as a protected class. And this all kind of stems from there. And when you look at the act, it uses this case from District 211 from several years ago, as well as there's one more, I don't remember the district, that references, hey, we created this law because of that case law, and this in a different one as well. So it all goes back to probably needing to litigate us out of this. And that's where I really want the families affected by this, that have their families have experienced harms, to come forward and do something about it. because that's probably what's going to fix it.
You don't have to be specific if you can't, but do you know that there are parents that are in the process of filing suits, or they already have filed suits, or you think that they're ready to? Do you think that those cases are going to start to accumulate in Illinois?
Yes, I do. And I can't say who at this point, but yes, I believe so. And I'm thankful for these people who are willing to put themselves out there and to do these things, because it's going to be important. So.
And I know our friend Shannon Adcock with Awake Illinois. Awake Illinois has filed several complaints, have they not?
Correct. Yeah, so Shannon's been great, and Awake's been filing complaints. And I'm aware of several parents that have filed complaints as well. And, you know, a bunch of us have talked, and we kind of developed a little bit of a playbook as to, hey, if your child experiences this situation, here's some steps and things to do, you know, immediately. And then, you know, if you want to litigate, that's, you know, down the road, but things that you can do immediately. And Shannon's been a great resource in that kind of information, because a lot of us didn't really know where to start, making it up as we go along. But yeah, and a lot of it is documentation. You know, get your child to talk to you and write down what has transpired so they don't forget, you know, a couple of weeks later. Just a lot of good advice. Filing a police report's probably a good idea. It doesn't mean that you're going to get anywhere with it, but do it anyway.
Yeah. So, and I know Sarah Partial Perry she has come to Illinois to speak at events. And I know she had sent me in early July. This is a case that's coming up. So it's on the docket of the Supreme Court. They had granted cert in a case, West Virginia versus PBJ, Hecox and Little, on whether sex-separated sports violate Title IX or the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. And she says that women's sports may finally achieve the ultimate protection and validation next term. And this is sort of the kind of litigation that you're talking about, that the Supreme Court will finally rule definitively on sex-separated sports and whether or not prohibiting a male from playing on an all-female athletic team does violate the Equal Protection Clause. And their final word on that would be endgame.
That would be great. Yeah. I mean, that's on the sports front. I mean, there's obviously a lot of dimensions to this. There's there's sports, and then there's the locker room situation. And then I wouldn't be surprised if somebody brings up the whole, a staff member needing to affirm a student's, I'm going to call it sex transition, gender transition. I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't something that bubbles up on that soon, because I've heard from quite a few teachers that are not happy having to call students by the wrong gender. You know, it's not biological reality in their teaching. So it doesn't, yeah.
That's a good, those are other important questions. We have Mahmoud v. Taylor, which the Supreme Court stated, unambiguously that parents have the right to opt their children out of curriculum that violates their deeply held religious beliefs. So Advocates for Youth, sex ed, if there's curriculum in which a parent is made aware that it's going to be LGBTQIA plus, they supposedly can have an opt out, right? But then when you read this gender support plan, this kind of brings to mind, there is a specific part that talks about the pedagogy, and I think I just passed it up.
Yes.
Here it is. Curriculum and pedagogy. And that the entire school, I mean, this isn't, Oh, in human growth and development. Oh, when you're talking, maybe in in a separate class that a student can elect to take about, maybe some sort of cultural topic. No, it said that the entire district is going to take a gender affirming approach when creating a learning environment, and that and it provide a curriculum that's rich with gender diversity and materials. I mean, this is a very scary to these paragraphs, were chilling.
Yes, I completely agree with you. And so in this category of problems, we also have a state law that requires the teaching of LGBTQ history. And now it's like the parents are starting to prepare opt-outs to that. And there's been, I'm hearing rumblings from some friendly school board members that, does the Supreme Court case apply to this because it's state law that we teach this? Are the kids allowed to opt out because the state law says they are not allowed to opt out of this LGBTQ history Illinois law? And it's an Illinois law. It's not a guidance. It's a law. And then this would be a little bit similar to that area. So I expect there to be some blow-ups of this one, unfortunately, because the way a lot of the parents will look at it this way, probably you do too, is whenever you bring up the acronym LGBTQ, the next question for a child is, what does that mean? What does LGBTQ mean? And you suddenly put the teacher in the position of having to explain sexuality, and that, I don't care how unintended it was, now they have to.
Yes.
And it doesn't belong in history class. So
no.
And there's no opt-out, there's no parental notification that this is happening in history class in Illinois. It's not sex ed where you can opt out. So this is an area I see blowing up in Illinois. And I think there's a few other states, obviously not Wisconsin, that have this type of curriculum. And I see this blowing up a little bit there too with the opt-outs, because the opt-outs were never designed for history class. They were designed for sex ed class.
Yes. How do you opt out of when there's curriculum, like they are to have curriculum that is rich with, what does it say? Accurate information on gender diversity, as well as gender affirming literature. That means that they have to find a publishing company, a curriculum that is going to be where these topics, these themes are going to be embedded throughout the whole curriculum. You cannot just opt out of the entire textbook,
Yeah.
And when is if let's say you're just talking to a normal teacher that really, even they don't have any opinion on this, they just want to do their job. How are they going to be able to alert parents? Well, today we're going to bring this topic up, on Tuesday and Wednesday, but then on Thursday, you're fine. I mean, it gets very complicated, and it's meant to. I think that's the intent. This kind of language is meant to sort of bypass parental rights laws, to bypass any sort of now federal mandates, and the federal government also can only affect the dollars that are spent by a district given to them by the federal government. It's a small portion. Usually they need that money very much, but it could be anywhere from 6 to 10% of the overall district budget. So maybe a district says, you know what? Okay, that's fine. We're going to forego those federal funds, and we're just going to do whatever we want.
Yeah, I mean, and that has been some of the conversation. And as you could imagine, the talking points from some of the state legislators here in Illinois has been, oh, look at the Department of Ed trying to punish students with IEPs and trying to punish students by taking their money away. And the real actual story is, no, it's that, if Illinois, if you insist on doing, or school, you insist on doing these things that we've told you not to do, that are unethical and are just morally wrong, and you continue to do that, we're going to take your money away. It has nothing to do with the students being served, because they really don't want to do that,
Yes. And they're not
It's just-
taking money away with the 5 school districts in Virginia. They simply are only reimbursing. So the
Okay.
districts will have to show that those 5 districts will have to, in order to get reimbursement, they have to prove that every cent, and that's according to Secretary Linda McMahon, every cent was spent appropriately. And so it's not technically, they're not denying them the funds. They are simply putting them in a category, and it is a punishment that they, in order to receive the funds, they're going to have to document that every penny was spent the way it should, and that what was spent did not violate the new policies by the Department of Education and didn't undermine or violate Title IX. And they don't like that, because they know that they are spending federal funds, using federal dollars to promote this woke gender ideology, or they have policies that are, align or adjacent to this sort of ideological, this radical indoctrination. And so they don't like that. But that, I'm just providing an argument for those who are listening. So if you hear, oh, they took the money away. No, they didn't take the money away. They just now have been put sort of on this probation where, in order to receive the federal funds, they have to prove that they are using the money appropriately. So if it's for 504 plans, IEPs, Title I funding, they just have to prove that they didn't misuse Title I funding, and instead of helping the children that need it, they provided professional development to educators that basically how to be kind and inclusive to, gender nonconforming students. So if they use the money for that, they're not going to get reimbursed for it. If they use the money for comprehensive sexuality education, they're not going to get reimbursed for it. And that's
the challenge with that, I don't know the dynamics of all the other states, but here is that the federal amount is so small, part of our budgets here, that's easy to prove. Example, my district, home district, we have nearly 20% of our students are in IEPs. And so they're spending far above the amount they're getting from the government on that area. And it's coming out of our property taxes. So they will have no problem proving to the federal government they're spending money on these kids that need it for that. Or if it's like meal programs, providing the lunches, and that, I know there's some of that's federal money too. So they're going to not have a problem proving that. It's going to come out of another bucket. So that's not going to help at all. It's not going to do anything.
I know, they're so sneaky, right? See, you and I have been doing this. I try to be hopeful for a second.
No, I'm hopeful.
I hear that.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. Just like, oh, maybe this will work. Then you realize, oh, they'll just move the money around, and they'll figure out some way to hide, like they have been doing for years.
Well, and they're not hiding it that well, so I don't think they care. To be honest. And I'm, the thing that's really sad about all this, Scarlett, is that, I'm also a business person, and some of these, people in these schools are just lovely, incredible people pouring into our kids. They want to do the right thing. And this is such a mess. It is so hard to manage a school these days. And, it's like, this is just not fair to them, really, to try to manage all this and do this stuff. And a lot of the families, they can't afford to homeschool. They can't afford to pull their kids out. So we really got to help these public schools get better. And I don't know what it's going to take. And a lot of this momentum on the school choice in Illinois is about zero. I don't, I mean, like all the states around us are like, ooh, school choice. And we're just like a big zero.
Because
So
it's not going to happen with your leaders. You have a
not right
state
now.
that Democrat as governor, has a sister who's transgender. He's a billionaire, worth a fortune, and deeply committed to this ideology. You've got Democrats that control both houses in your state government, and you've got judges that are very progressive, far left. So it's an uphill battle for your state. It's difficult, but I want to, you say as a businesswoman, how do you look at what's happening and how the education system is run and how poorly it's run, in my opinion?
Yeah. I mean, it's like most things where if you want to have a good product, the capitalist system is, the way to go. So by us not having a capitalist type system on education is how we've gotten here. And if you were to open it up to school choice where the families could shop their dollars, it'll take a while, but it's going to get a lot better. And that's just not the momentum we're seeing. And that's what I really think we need to see. I've talked to a lot of leaders, and especially Ted Dabrowski of WirePoints. I don't know if you've seen his data. They do a lot of great work on what's going on with schools, but also, policy, pension, that kind of stuff. And he's a big school choice advocate. So, we have a lot of voices. But I do think, I think of this logically, like if we inform voters as to what their elected officials are doing, and, that's what we have to do, then hopefully they'll vote different. I mean, our last election for governor, Darren Bailey got, I believe, about 43% of the vote, and he's extremely conservative.
That's a good number.
I think that's a pretty good number, all things considered. And he was outspent by Pritzker. It was at least 2 or 3 times the amount of money. So I'm like, all right, so if we had a candidate that was strong this time, that had, a little better funding and was maybe, a little bit more diverse and maybe more diverse in terms of at least political opinions, gosh, I think we got a chance. So I have a lot of hope. I think a lot of parents are waking up to the fact that what's happening here, and voters in Chicago are not happy. They are not happy at all. And Chicago's the problem. So,
okay, that's what brings to mind. So this morning, I was listening to my local radio station, my conservative talk, and 1130 with WISN, and I frequently a guest on those shows, so I'm grateful to them.
Yeah.
They were talking about what's going on in Chicago as far as the crime and the response to just the threat by President Trump that if Chicago doesn't clean up the city and reduce crime, that maybe he'll send some of the National Guard there to help the distressed residents of Chicago. And what they found, man on the street interviews, are all of these residents of Chicago, many of whom are Black, are like, we need help. Come on, President Trump, please, please come and help us because we're tired of it. And so the reaction where you have all of these sort of white elitists saying, how dare President Trump, how dare he do this? You've got Black residents saying, please, please do something. Now, I'm not saying that this is the solution, but it clearly shows that Democrats are out of touch, that they are willing to say, I don't know, being murdered is it's just part of the charm. It's part of the charm of Chicago. It's part of being murdered.
Yeah, gangster Chicago, whatever, You
might get mugged. That's just part of the charm. That's just part of the charm of coming to Chicago. You might get mugged. And that's with DC. This belief that, there was 10% less murders than there was last year, and that's a terrible thing to say. That's a horrible soundbite, but that's what you have Democrats saying. And the truth is, the only reason why there's a reduction in crime in the statistics is because they have now DEI'd those statistics. And even the police force knows that there are things that they're not going to report, that don't get reported. A lot of crime doesn't get reported because people shrug their shoulders like nothing's going to happen. There's all sorts of reasons, but crime has not been reduced. Yet the Democrats are on the wrong side of this issue. So do you think that maybe there is hope, not from the suburban elite, that surround Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
but actual in Chicago,
Yeah.
the residents, Black, Hispanic, working class, that are finally going to say, I've been voting Democrat my whole life. And my house is in, I'm worried every day that I can't afford my house. My kids are going to these terrible schools where they're not learning anything but the LGBTQIA plus alphabet and the crime.
Yeah.
So could there be hope there?
I do think there's a lot of hope. I mean, and a lot of people are 1 or 2 issue voters, and now they're starting to see this is kind of out of the Moms for Liberty realm. This is more of my analytical hat, but it's like, okay, now these other buckets of my life are bubbling over, and whatever issue I voted for or 2 with the Dems last time, gosh, that's just not as important anymore. Now the crime and my taxes and, the schools, this stuff might be more important than some other things that I was siding with them on. So I see that. I really do. I think it's great.
And these issues, I do frame them sometimes just because I've been, a political scientist, frame them as Republican, Democrat, but these are not partisan issues. They really aren't, and they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. This is just about safety, education, just bringing normal back, just doing things like a normal person would do.
Yeah.
I was talking to Daniel Buck yesterday, and he said, these aren't conservative values. These are traditional values. We traditionally didn't like to have cities with high crime rates, particularly Chicago. Chicago, my goodness, from Wisconsin, I would go there a couple times a year, girls' trips, take my family, a beautiful city, so much culture, shopping, eating, all of that. And now I don't go anymore. It's been years.
Yeah. That's what a lot of us talk about. We're like, we really just, there's so much here, and a lot of tradition and a lot of families, generations and generations of families. There's so much hope and so many great things about it. We really want to save it and try to stop the trend of people leaving, the businesses leaving. It's all common sense. It really is. And the government here has just gotten far too big. And that is why it's political, because it's too big. It's come too far into our lives. Otherwise, it wouldn't be like this. We wouldn't even be talking about it.
So are you saying that there's too many people employed by the state government and the city and local, that's the fact that you've got this large government, a large apparatus in Illinois, that the power is just too much?
Yeah. It's, I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg, right? Is it the people that created the policies or vice versa? Historically, it's just too much. And you look at, the local schools are getting, they're stifled because they want local control by and large, but the state has such a big influence in so many policies they push in there. And it's expensive. And we could talk about this mental health law that they put in. We could go there if you want.
Yes, I would like that.
That's another perfect example of government overreach. Government overreach 101 class, this mental health bill.
So why don't you describe what's happening? Because this is a first in the country.
Sure. So they just put this into place that schools starting in 3rd grade are going to be required to do mental health screenings unless the parent opts out. Okay. And now I've gotten a little more information into how this transpired. So I guess some proportion, 2/3 ish of the schools in the state were doing some type of mental health screening somewhere. And so it became a thing where, well, this isn't regulated. It might not be done correctly. Like, okay, maybe. And, kids are having so many mental health problems. This might be a good idea to put something in place universally across Illinois to handle this situation that is already happening. And that's what got sold to, I believe, the Republicans in my state and why they voted for this. Now, that being said, okay, well, just because some of the schools or 2/3 of the schools decided to do some maybe small to medium size, I don't think it's full scale, but initiative around this does not mean that everybody needs to do it. And it does not mean that it has to be every kid. So here we are. And now in the fall veto session, maybe they can make some changes to get rid of it, but it's already there. And what I've been starting to say is that I think, like sex ed, like we had this, the comprehensive sex ed kind of thing a few years ago, the schools were able to opt out of that. The schools themselves were able to opt out of that if they didn't want to be regulated by the state government on sex ed. And I want to say almost 70% or so of the schools said, yeah, we want to opt out. We'll figure out our own sex ed. Thanks, but no thanks. They said that. That was actually huge. So on this, I feel similarly. I'm like, let the schools and the districts, they can opt in or out of this thing if they're already doing it. Okay, opt into the program, and then you get like some free screeners or something and some resources from the state. Okay, whatever. And my other issue is, so let the schools opt into it, don't make them, and let the parents make them opt into it instead of out of it. All of this stuff with opt-outs, I don't know what you see in Wisconsin, but they're missed a lot.
Yes.
And the schools forget to ask. It's not that they're mean. They're just so much going on. Every little survey, this is another thing. They have to ask the parents for opt-outs, and they have to track this stuff and all these things. I'm like, so have them opt in. A lot less likely to miss it, a lot less likely to ask some kid if they're suicidal that the parents didn't want you to ask, So that's my ask so far. I might have some more asks from our kind of Moms for Liberty community of people, but so far it's let the schools opt into this and let the parents have them explicitly opt into the mental health screen.
I think opt-ins are a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And just to kind of prove why you should be nervous about this,
Mm-hmm.
this is,
Yeah.
I was sent this, again, this was probably 2 years ago. I was sent this. It is a slideshow, a professional development training for Wisconsin school psychologists. And through this, I'll get to, all of this. So sex assigned at birth, intersex, gender identity, so trans, gender nonconforming, two-spirit, lesbian, gay, okay, that's normal. But wait till you see what we get here. Other terms: questioning, queer, gender expression, furry. They spent a lot of time talking, and the person who sent this to me was like, I had to sit through this hours of professional development. I could not believe what I was hearing, that we should affirm furries. And there was a lot of other very questionable things. But this is the kind of, and if I went further on in this training, they also started to talk about critical race theory, promoting Marxist literature, very progressive ways of looking at mental illness. And then in that slideshow presentation, though, at the end, they do say, it turns out that through our research that the vast majority of kids that claimed that they are gender nonconforming are also autistic. And
Right.
that's just a side note. That's a
Right.
side note. Instead of really, that's the story right there, that maybe as counselors, as therapists, we should dig a little deeper and ask questions like, okay, this child is feeling uncomfortable in their body. Let's examine why, instead of affirming right away, to the point that if they identify as a cat,
Mhm.
you should say, good little kitty. I don't want these people giving any of my kids a mental health screening. They are looking for something in our children, something to validate their worldview. Too many of them. I wouldn't say all of them, but too many. And one is too many, frankly. And when, in my experience and in the experience of many other Moms for Liberty members and other parental rights activists, the person that is usually in charge of a GSA club, a person who has literally like kind of carried the water for taking a normal district and making it very woke, is usually a school counselor.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many issues I have with this. It's unbelievable. I mean, and the other argument I have about it is, in order to go to school, you have to have a pediatrician's exam and a form to get to school. At the pediatrician's exam, it is required to do a mental health screen already.
Yes.
So this is like double duty, you know? So from a taxpayer's viewpoint, it's also like, what are we doing here? You know, and it's not free. I don't care who's telling me it's free. It's not free. No, because you know what? You do this mental health screen, and then some percent of the kids are going to say something you don't like that triggers, or you are now a mandatory reporter. And you know what that means, like whether it's whatever word it is, suicide or some type of drug thing or something, or some problem at home. And now they're going into a funnel where something has to be done fairly immediately. That is not free. The school is going to have a program and people, even if it's outsourced, to deal with this and to funnel that stuff. It's not free. So, yeah. And of course, I mean, we want to help kids, but I mean, how many times, why aren't they just doing it at the pediatrician's exam where they're supposed to be? I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, I can say there is a school counselor is not a therapist. A therapist not only has to have a degree in psychology, but a master's degree in psychology. And they usually go on to get their PhD.
Right.
Very different training. A school psychologist does not have the expertise. And if that school psychologist is not a licensed therapist, if they would not have the ability to talk to your children outside of a school, because they don't have the licensure for it, they don't have the education, they don't have the training. So I think it's very dangerous to assume that a counselor is the same as a therapist. A counselor, a school counselor, a guidance counselor helps them, oh, what classes will you take next year? Oh, and by the way, tell me all about your problems and we can investigate why you feel that you are born in the wrong body. That is not, that's not what they are supposed to do. I would imagine many educators don't want that role. They don't want to take that on. They don't want to wear that hat. So what are you to do? And there's a shortage of therapists right now. It's almost to a crisis point, especially after COVID. It's very difficult to find good therapists. There's a shortage of therapists and licensed and qualified psychologists. So where are they going to find the people that are going to perform these screenings? I highly doubt that the districts can afford to hire a licensed psychologist, nor are there enough of them to do this job. So I think that they are going to quickly certify people and put them through some professional development, give them 40 hours of something, and then boom, wear the hat. Now you're a therapist. And that, again, this is just what my thinking could happen. And if that's the case, it would be terrible. It's a very bad idea.
Yeah, I agree. And we're not sure what form this is all going to take. if it's just going to be like another online survey thing to start. And then if something gets triggered, it goes to a next level. Like none of that's very clear. So I don't want to make up something that's not there. But even if you look at the Illinois Youth Survey, which most of the parents I know opt out of, it's very problematic. It's, so it's coming from the state. So I have no doubt that, and we can do another live stream on that survey. It's a disaster and a half. It's probably going to be similarly problematic with the mental health one.
We should do, I know that you have something you have to go to. We should do another and actually like show people what those surveys look like, walk them through. I have 5 kids. You have 3 kids. My kid before, you have 5 kids?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
you're 3 in college now. They made it through.
Oh, great. We're part of the same club, 5-kid club. So you have 5 kids and you have 3 in college. I have 3 in college. Well, now I have 1 that just graduated medical school. So I have 2 in college and 1 that's residency. But 1 in high school, 1 in middle school. But so I'm sure even before all of this, my kids would tell me about the surveys and the stories I would hear about how kids would intentionally fill them out wrong, like giggle and laugh, or just, they said, I'm not telling the truth because they say they don't know who you are, but I don't believe them. So what kind of accurate picture are they getting from these surveys anyway? I don't trust them. And I also don't think that they are accurate.
Yeah, I mean, and then the mental health ones will not be anonymous. And if the kids joke around, which we all know some of them will, I don't, it's kind of scary what's going to get put on their record and where that goes. And I just, kids are going to be kids,
And one last thing I'll say about this, because I just recently had this experience where, my daughter was having one of those screenings last year during a regular pediatrician visit, and she had just finished a basketball tournament, had a bunch of exams coming up, and she was asked, like, are you feeling anxious or depressed? And she's like, yeah, I kind of am a little bit. Suddenly, it's like, oh, they've stopped the meet. They had someone come in, talk to her, and after some time, it was all meant for good. There was nothing nefarious happening. I was there the whole time. It was just the minute they heard that, it kind of triggered that, okay, we're going to bring someone in to talk to. And then it turns out, oh, okay, she's fine. She's just naturally feeling these things because of in the life. So imagine you're just taking a survey and you're this snapshot in time. Are you feeling sad or depressed? Yeah, my boyfriend broke up with me. I'm feeling depressed. Does that mean that they have depression, or does that just mean they're feeling depressed right in that moment? You can't put this in a school. This is a big deal.
I completely agree. And I think turning schools into medical facilities, I mean, if you look at just look at the test scores. I mean, and our performance in the United States, I mean, not to mention Illinois is even worse, but compared to other third world countries is declining, especially compared to China and Singapore and some of the Nordic countries. We are falling far below. A lot of people don't realize that. That's a whole nother episode here too. Another and I'm like, so what are we doing? We're adding more bureaucracy and more work onto the public school system, and we're failing in the stuff they're really supposed to do well. Okay, it doesn't make any sense.
And these issues that kids have, kids that are coming to school, and I know that it's happening. I'm not trying to say that there aren't kids that have increased anxiety and depression, particularly after COVID. Absolutely. That they are feeling a lot of these pressures because of cell phones, media, social media, all of that. But this is a bigger problem that cannot be solved in the classroom. And we have to, do we have to come together and think, how do we solve some of these problems for our kids? Absolutely. But the answer isn't going to be found in a mental health survey given by bureaucrats in a school without, really involving parents and families and communities. So
Yeah,
I think that's it.
completely agree.
Well, this was a great conversation, and clearly there's a whole bunch more that we need to have in the future. The mental health screening, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And I think while Illinois may be the first to do this, it certainly won't be the last. And Republicans signed on to it. So this isn't something that you can say, oh, this is woke. No, this is something that could happen in a red state. It could happen even if you think a school board could pass this, even if you think, oh, this is a more traditional school board, because there are some very real problems in society right now, and everyone's trying to figure out how to solve them. But we need to be wary of solutions that are only going to invite more problems.
Absolutely. Yeah, not denying that the issues there, it's definitely substantial, but I don't think this is the medicine for it.
Yep, I agree. Well, thanks for coming on and talking about what's happening in Illinois. I know you're great. I love everything that you're doing. You are so helpful to so many. I mean, you're the chapter chair of Lake County, but you are driving all over your state to help folks. And so follow Marsha. You can find her information. I'm going to post your information so they know where to follow you, where to contact you. If you are in Illinois, you can contact Marsha. If you don't have a chapter, you could start a chapter. And if
a chapter, please.
Yes. And if you live in her area, you can be a part of her chapter. You can also become a national member too. So thanks for coming on, Marsha. This was
absolutely, Scarlett.
This was enlightening. I won't say great because the topics are heavy, but learn a lot. And there's a lot that we can learn from what's happening in Illinois. And I have a lot of hope for Illinois.
Thank you. I do too. And by and large, the teachers and staff are so thankful we're working on this and helping them. So that makes me feel good, really good.
Yes, this is not, everything we're talking about is not a criticism of the teachers and staff. A lot of times, vast majority of times, they agree with a lot of what we're saying.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that they're going to vote like we do, but they care about kids. They care about education, and they're tired of getting sort of caught up in all of this nonsense as well. They just want to do their job. So,
100%.
All right. Thanks, Marsha. I'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye. That was a great conversation with my friend from Lake County. And I'm so glad that she could come on and tell us more of what's happening in Illinois. Follow us on social media. Moms for number 4 Liberty. That would be on Facebook, Instagram, X. We have a YouTube channel where you can find this episode and many other things that we have on our. That was so great to have Marsha on. I always enjoy our conversations. Don't forget to follow Moms for Liberty. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X. We have a TikTok account even. We also have a YouTube channel where you can find this show and the Fire of Liberty with Tina Deskovich. All of our wonderful shows and podcasts and live streams are on there, as well as our Moms for Liberty Academy live streams, videos, and lectures. And don't forget to register for the Joyful Warriors Summit that will be in Orlando, Florida, October 16th through the 18th. It's going to be a great time. And we talked about a lot of the challenges that we face in public education. Here are some solutions. This is a free resource that you can download at momsforliberty.org. momsforliberty.org, and I will provide that information right here. So to start a chapter to find more information about this resource that is great, and it can be used as it's a PDF. This is a great resource that you can use. You can download it, you can print it off, you can share it, and it talks about your parental rights and talks about opt-outs, something that Marsha and I discussed in detail. So my closing thoughts are, parents, you have to be involved. You have to fight for your children and your communities. This is a big deal, the things that are happening. There are so much good. We've got the Trump administration. There's so many good things happening, but there are also still communities, school districts, states that are just committed to woke radical gender ideology. And that commitment could stem from ideological, it could be financial, it could be about the fact that they receive a lot of funding from activist organizations and they need the money. We don't know why, but it's there. And so we need to stand up and we need to make sure that our voices are heard. We need to run for local office. We need to support good candidates running for local office. We need to show up at school board meetings, just like Marsha, and just say respectfully, this is what's happening. This is why I object to it. Here are the facts. Here's policy. Here's the law. And in a very respectful way, say, please join us on Team Standity and find the courage to stand up and do what is right. To end, I am going to play our video that talks more about the Moms for Liberty National Summit, again, happening October 16th through the 18th. I hope to see you there. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day. Bye.
Elena, what state are you from?
New York.
Hawaii.
I'm from Texas, Washington. I have my kids actually with me to do the march.
Wherever I go, odds are there is a Moms for Liberty group or a whole tribe in the room sounding off loud and proud.
And you could see the passion here because it's about supporting kids.
Pledge to each other that we will live like men and women who are determined to remain free.
I'm for parental rights.